So, hello everyone. My name is Craig DeLarge. I'm with the Digital Mental Health Project. I invited Eva to spend some time with us today, talking about her perspective, her experience, and she'll say more about her work, and what she see as the potential in the future for what we're calling this year creative, mental, and behavioral health care. So, Eva, welcome.
Oh,
Welcome.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So as you know, I'm a counselor and psychotherapist, and I have worked in the digital space as a clinical director
Mhm.
and a business lead for a platform called Mind District.
Yep.
Um, yeah, and I'm by training. I mean, but for psychology and psychotherapy, I have studied art therapy in the States.
Yes.
So that's why I feel that, if the creative element is very, very important
Mhm.
in the space of good mental health.
Yes, yes. So, can you give us some examples of work that you've done in this creative care area, just in your own history as a therapist?
Mm-hmm. Of
What
course.
you've seen that works well in a
Mm-hmm.
context and population, and then lessons that you've learned that would be helpful to those of us that are thinking more and more about how to advocate for these approaches to care that go beyond the medication and talk therapy core that we know mental health currently constitutes.
Yeah. Um, I'm an art psychotherapist,
Yeah.
so I have worked a lot with that. I have done some movement as well and some um theater, but mainly art. So I found that worked fantastically well with children and adolescents.
Yes.
Um, and and the most important reason is because they didn't have the vocabulary, the emotional vocabulary to express things, while they were able to do it through art.
Yes.
It worked fantastically in my experience with older population, especially population with dementia,
Uh-huh.
because it just reconnected them with things in the past, or created like a cognitive thread, and that worked really well.
Yeah.
Um, I have worked with severe complex cases, and that works really well because it creates a space where you can share and you can be an artist, and
Yeah.
you can just be in a creative space that there is no stigma and everybody is an artist, and that works really well.
Yes.
And also it's very therapeutic, it's very relaxing. So I don't know if you have spent like 2 hours doing a watercolor painting. It's
Oh,
amazing. It's very relaxing. Yeah,
I haven't
highly
actually. I need to
recommended.
write that down to go do that actually.
Yes, highly recommended. I mean, when I'm stressed, I'm just taking a class of watercolor and I'm just like,
Right.
I'm done. Yeah.
That's really interesting you mentioned that. I was listening to a podcast yesterday about this emergent practice called social prescribing.
Yes. Yes.
And I know that right around the corner from where I live is one of these sip and paint places where you go and you drink wine while painting.
Yes.
You do it in
Yes.
community with others. And I often think of that as something to do for entertainment with friends. But it's interesting to contemplate that as a potential social prescription and a
Yeah.
form of either prevention and wellness or treatment.
Yeah.
So, okay.
100%. And I think something that we are losing and we're missing, and
Yeah.
that affects our mental health, is it is the community and the sense of the village. And even though I'm a digital champion, don't get me wrong, I
Yeah.
love digital, anything digital, AI, I'm in it.
Right.
But I think the finding your village again and find points of connection and
Yeah.
find healthy points of connection, I
Right.
think it's very, very important. And just doing things together
Right.
with people that in a way that is creative, productive, and connecting and
Yes.
non-judgmental, I think it's powerful.
Ah, so that evokes a question. Um, what would you say is the proper role of digital technology in that context where, you know, too many of us have used digital technology as a substitute for community,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
without throwing digital away entirely and thinking about how we can actually assist the the delivery of creative mental health services. What is your kind of thought about that?
I think the keyword is substitute. So we can use digital to enhance and assist, but not substitute, because a human connection is essential.
Yeah.
So in the creative space, and what we used to say in the art therapist is the process, not the product. So it is about being in the room with the people doing art in silence, and then going around and sharing what you've done and
And
having the critique. And this is extremely powerful. Or even not sharing, but the therapist going around and just connecting with you via the art. So that is very powerful. And I've been thinking how there are ways to kind of have digital supporting this
yes,
and increase accessibility, and increase like make the community bigger, but not take away the element of the process, and the element of sharing, and the element of being here and
right.
doing something together. I don't have the answer. I'm just
Understood. Yeah, we're here
yeah,
to
yeah.
work on those answers together.
But there must be ways where kind of digital can enhance and be, but not take away the process.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that. Well, this is helpful. The wheels are turning in my head now, even as
Yeah.
we're talking here. So now
I
let
mean,
me ask. Okay,
sorry,
please.
but I'm just having like a thought just as we're speaking. Like, remember in COVID when people were isolated and they start creating music
Yes.
together
Yep.
by each one putting their instruments, and they created. That was amazing. And that was like how you can use a digital when you
Yeah.
don't have the ability to be together.
Right.
So maybe that could be an answer when people are isolated, or the people like there is distance. So there must be ways for digital to enhance and help and support, but not take away.
You're right. And it was so therapeutic.
Yeah,
It was for me. But what's so sad is that we have this division in how we think about medicine and healthcare, right?
yeah,
Where that was over there because we didn't have studies and reimbursement and all this sort of stuff. We didn't think of that as therapy, but that was
yeah.
like therapy for the masses, not just
Yes,
and not just for those that are critically ill. So interesting. Yeah.
yeah. But I think that where we're now, because we have all the evidence base and it needs to be kind of heavily RCT'd, whatever we do.
Yeah.
And some things they work because you have been there, and you know the process, and you have the people who have been there and they know the process, and there's a testament that it works. But you don't have this massive RCTs, and you don't have kind of the before and after.
Yeah.
So, and it takes time, and there's no guarantee. The method is not guaranteed. It's like, we know it works, the process works,
Right.
how it works. So I think that is the problem with how um this can be commercialized
Yes.
and kind of being supported in the mainstream kind of healthcare
Gotcha.
industry.
So based on you using the word commercialization, would it be fair to say that you believe that as a mode of therapy, right? That there is a future potential for finding a business model, I'm going to call it, or a reimbursement model for these creative approaches to therapy that we're talking about.
Well, yeah, as we know, there
Uh-huh.
needs to be evidence first,
Yeah.
so the money can be invested. So
Yeah.
basically, if there is not enough evidence, I think it's very difficult. It will take somebody with extreme connections and vision to create something and prove that the validity of it, and then get the investment. So it's tricky, isn't it? Because
Is.
with all the recession around the world, the last 2 decades basically, you see the first thing that goes out in mental health settings are the creative arts. That's the first thing
Yeah.
that, with the cutbacks, that's
Right.
the first thing that they shut down, because it's like, well, we don't know how it works or if it works or how much it works. We cannot measure it, so we just not having it anymore.
Yeah. Even as you said that, it occurred to me, though, that it would be interesting to think, is there what I'll call a hip hop or folk adoption model? So, hip hop is a major global industry now.
Yeah,
But those of us who were kids when hip hop was coming along know that hip hop, before the investors got a hold of it, was just something that we were doing in the neighborhood and was spreading through word of mouth,
yeah,
and we getting together and just wanted to be connected to one another.
yeah.
And so I start to wonder, particularly when I look at my own children and grandchildren, if we teach them these tools and this becomes a part of their generational culture, is this something that then spreads without money, but with soul and with community? So
That would be amazing.
it's an interesting premise to think about, isn't it?
That will be amazing. And actually that's the way it should be, in a way.
Yeah,
Let's do some things, it would be great to do some things without the commercialization aspect, just for the sake of doing good
absolutely. Okay. All righty.
and support the communities.
Exactly. Okay. So I want to be, I'll keep a good eye on time. I have one last question for you.
Okay.
When you reflect on your own training and practice in this space of art and movement and creative arts therapy and that sort of thing, what are 3 learnings or lessons that you would offer to peers, and especially peers that are earlier in their careers in working with these therapies, around, like, what have you learned about good practice and or taking care of oneself, or improving the adoption of these therapies?
Oh, that's a good question. It's a very difficult one, because it's been a while since I've used art therapy. So I think one thing is just, given that it's the creative space, always push the boundaries and try to find more ways to be creative,
Yes.
and just challenge the way things are done, and just find, you know as I say, mix and match, do different things, do things differently, see how they work, like, because by definition this is a creative space, so you can do it. It's
Yes.
not rigid.
Right.
So this is something that worked really well for me, and especially when I was living in the States.
Yes.
And the other thing, don't be afraid to grow, and see where growing is taking you.
Yes.
And this is what happened to me. So that's why uh, I'm not in the creative, even though I support the creative space, I'm not there. But it's, it's always like a continuum in terms of my journey.
Gotcha.
And always art is in my life, always.
Right.
Um, and part of my well-being.
Very nice.
Uh, and I think we shouldn't be afraid to mix the digital, the new technologies,
Gotcha.
with the creative arts, and there are ways to do it. And technology is an enabler, and I'm very, very passionate about AI and digital, so it's an enabler. So there are ways to enable people to kind of support more people and communities to grow and support each other.
Beautiful. Okay. All right. Well, Eva, thank you very much for that. This has been a
Thank
great
you.
discussion, and it's evoked some thoughts for me, um, that I may come back to you and have some further discussion about, in terms of the
Of
potentials,
course.
so thank you again very much. So
My pleasure. Thank you.
good interview, and everyone enjoy the rest of the balance of the conference this year. Take care.